All right, as promised, I have got a gear review for you today, and as you can tell on the screen back here, if you can see it might be a little out of focus, we're looking at the GoPro MAX, but the first thing that I have to do is clean up a bit of a mess I made finally hanging up this nice little print that Rich Auger hooked me up with. That thing just looks good there. Wall was bare and I finally hung it up, so let's get to cleaning this up before we get into the review. All right, that is way better. So glad to finally get this a little more organized, a little more cleaned up. Desk looks better, so everything that you guys can see looks a little nicer. But I've been incredibly fortunate to have owned the first GoPro HD Hero way back in 2011, and I believe that camera came out in like 2006. But after my first trip to Whistler, where I didn't have a GoPro to capture all the great riding footage that I had, I knew I had to get one, and I knew I'd be able to implement it in some of my filmmaking as a content creator, filmmaker for a lot of the great companies that I work for or with. So I've owned almost all of the GoPros throughout the entire lineup, and I've been able to take it from coast to coast. I've been able to use it for snowboarding, mountain biking, any of the adventures that I go on. I've also been able to actually use it in the Toronto Maple Leafs hype video back in 2018. So because I own 6 or 7 GoPros, or at least I did at the time, I was able to mount them in different points throughout the Leafs walkout. So once they edited all of that footage together, it was incredible actually getting to see 17,000 people actually reacting to a lot of the content that I helped create for the first time in the bowl in the arena. It was just, it sent chills down my spine. It was absolutely incredible. So I've gotten to use these GoPros for quite a while now, and they give you a perspective that you don't normally get. You can mount these cameras in places you normally couldn't mount something like an FS7. Now in the last few years, they've made minor improvements to the GoPros as they've gone along, even adding some stabilization from the Hero 5 onwards. It's gotten incrementally better, but there hasn't been anything really game-changing that I've found until 2017. 2017 is when they actually launched the GoPro Hero Fusion. For myself, I was still trying to learn what 360 video would be good for myself. Fast forward to 2019, just last year, and the Hero Max has been launched. Now, this camera was something that actually enticed me quite a bit more. I'm really familiar with all the GoPro software at this point. There are competitors out there like the Insta360 One X, which is also an incredible camera, and now the Insta360 One R got even better because it's modular. But we already had one of those in the studio. We didn't have one of these guys, and because I knew GoPro well, I already had the app. It would work seamlessly and cut well with my other GoPros. This seemed like it was a good match for myself. But I think to talk more about the GoPro Max, we gotta get outside and actually shoot with it. So let's head outside, hop on the bike, and shoot some content. All right, so I'm about to head out on a ride finally. It's been a few days of rain, but it's nice enough to get out. But the first thing I had to actually show you was this right here. My buddy just sent me social distancing stickers. All right, so we finally got a decent weather window. Let me get this dog hair right off here. Finally got a decent weather window. You can tell because everyone is outside, sick of being isolated inside for so long. And I was gonna take you to the top of Martin Road, which is where the Paris to Ancaster is supposed to finish this year. Obviously it's canceled, but there's 3 things we're looking for in the GoPro Hero Max that most cyclists, mountain bikers, gravel riders, and roadies are looking for, I think. Just from my humble opinion. Let me get rid of that. And that is audio quality, image stabilization, and multiple angles in one. We're riding for long distances, or we're riding with buddies who don't want to be stopping and waiting for multiple angles. So 360 cameras can kind of give you that. So since Martin Road's pretty busy up at the top with lots of dog walkers trying to keep my distance, this is a gravel parking lot I got right here. So essentially how I'm going to set this up, I've got the GoPro Hero 7 Black with image stabilization. Then I've got the GoPro Hero Max. We're gonna swap between the two and see how they compare with the image stabilization, with as close to the same settings as possible. I've got this super interesting rig right here. This is the El Grande pole. It's not made for 360, so you will actually see a little bit of this on the rear lens, but it does the trick. I've checked a little bit of the footage so far just on my ride over here, and so far it's looking pretty solid. But what I'm really curious to know is how the audio quality is. The only cheater aspect to the GoPro Hero 7 right now is I've got a windscreen on it to protect it from any of that additional muffled wind noises that you get. So let's start off with the GoPro Hero Max. Gonna ride around the parking lot, different speeds, so you get a little bit of that wind noise. And I'm on a fully rigid gravel bike, so there's gonna be lots of micro jitters and bumps and stuff. So hopefully the stabilization built into the camera is good enough on the GoPro Hero Max to beat out this old Hero 7. Can't believe I'm already saying it's old. All right, so just ripping around parking lot here. It's pretty bumpy. Now, obviously, the other unfair advantage that the 7 Black has got is that the mic is right at my mouth, so you can actually hear it. See how that stabilization is doing in the audio. It's a good thing it's finally getting warm out, so I can actually clean this bike up. Alright, let's pop into the grass here. Get that true cyclocross experience. Oh, and the Max actually flipped on me there. Can't reach it. There we go. So I just took a bit of Velcro to kind of hold the Max in place. Because even though the bag's zipped up, zippers tend to move. Do all sorts of weird stuff. All right, so that's a 7 Black on the chesty, Hero Max up top on the fish bowl. Switch them out. All right, so now we got the GoPro Hero Max up on the chesty. We're gonna throw the Hero 7 Black right here, throw that up on the fish pole, see how that goes. One more thing to add on there, actually. Other really cool thing that I just found out with a video with Aaron Gwinn doing a DH track just before all this COVID stuff happened. The 360 Max, because there's actually image stabilization built into it and you have that 360 view, you actually get an even wider field of view for that downhill racetrack, but you don't get that gimbal leveling. You can actually do it in post, but otherwise you can get that turning with the GoPro, which is pretty sweet. So let's try it out. Other disadvantage to the Hero 7, I'm just realizing now, is that because I can't actually see where the angle is, I don't know if I'm gonna get the shot. So this may take a couple tries. One of the pros to the Hero Max already is the 360 view, so it's a lot easier to actually see what you're shooting. So hopefully you don't get swiveled around and it kind of stays put. The other thing is that I can't keep this completely straight, so you're gonna be on a bit of an angle, so that's another disadvantage to a regular GoPro versus this guy here. Now, if you're gonna be running the Hero Max on a chesty, you aren't rich, I suggest you throw the little lens condoms on, protect your lenses from any scratches, but right now it's a pretty mellow ride, so we should be okay. All right, so we're getting up to speed here, probably doing 25-ish So the Max has got all wind right on it. See how it does with the wind cancellation. Again, that Hero 7 Black has got a dead cat on it, so it should sound okay. Ooh, I even got a little muddy. So that about does it for the fishbowl. We're good there. We got both cameras on the chesty. See how they compare there. Next up, I'm just gonna throw it straight on the handlebars, which is usually, in my books, a huge no-no for GoPro filming. Main reason being, when you're riding and your handlebars are moving back and forth with the regular GoPro, you're gonna get that seasickness, motion sickness feeling. But with the Max, it should rise in level and you should be able to keep it pretty well steady on there with a super wide angle. So we'll see how both do. GoPro MAX up front on the bars. So the other thing with the 360 cameras that you have to watch for, you don't want to be within the stitch line on the camera. So that's essentially the perimeter around the frame of the camera where the two lenses stitch together, the two sensors stitch the image together, because then half your face will disappear, kind of like when you do a panorama in your iPhone. And it just makes you look all kinds of weird. Not unlike when you're riding your bike, talking to yourself. Oh, this is really bad. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the GoPro MAX? Well, like any camera, there's pros and cons to it. Let's start with the cons. So first off, which is probably the biggest thing that most people get confused about with this camera, is its 5.7K sensor. Now, when you actually crop in to make this a regular GoPro point of view or angle, you're actually only getting a 1080p image. So it's great for social media and that, but if you're delivering in 4K like I am right now, you will have to upscale that, which does degrade the quality just a little bit. For most people though, they're not gonna notice the difference. Now next up are the stitch lines. If you don't get the angle perfect, you are gonna see a little bit of that stitch line showing up. I'll bring up a clip right now where you can see it kind of cutting through my arm, and if you put your face at the wrong spot, you're gonna be missing half your face. Like I said before, it's like when you take a panorama with your iPhone and someone moves while you're taking it, you'll have that awkward kind of half person in your shot. And finally, it is a camera that requires a little more post-production. Most GoPro users are just gonna upload their whole ride throughout their video. This one, if you want to mess around with the angles and kind of work with it, it does take a little more time in post-production, but the app is fantastic. Now, I didn't get into the app, but it is very easy to work with. It just takes more time. All right, so what are the pros of this camera? Obviously, first up, it's 360, so you've got limitless options on what angles you can actually shoot at. You can zoom in, you can zoom right out to the tiny planet effect, use it sparingly, but you can flip around and see your friends riding behind you. You can flip back to the front and actually see everything ahead of you on the trail and get that super wide point of view. As I mentioned before with Aaron Gwynn's video, they use that super view to really get everything on the trail and use that image stabilization to just absolutely crush an edit without using any gimbal technology whatsoever. Everything was done in camera. So the stabilization and the 360 video are two really cool aspects of this camera. The other thing that gets overlooked quite a bit in all aspects of camera technology is the audio. And the audio coming out of this camera is actually pretty incredible. I believe there's a microphone on every single side of this camera but this one. So The camera does a really good job to decide which microphone is gonna pick up the audio to cut down on all that excess wind noise. So it's pretty cool with that. And finally, the app is just easy to use. So even if you don't know Premiere Final Cut that well and you wanna just post something quickly after your ride to your social media, you can do that because the app is super easy. You can actually use a motion tracking type software in there where you can just look around and point to where you want the frame to be, or you can get in there and set keyframes on your phone super easily and get it shared up on an Instagram or YouTube, whatever social media platform you want to put that up on. So if you want another video of me talking a little bit more about the post-production side of working with the GoPro MAX, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to check out that music video from my buddy Christoph, you definitely should. It's super cool how he managed to edit that one together. I will leave a link in the description below. And then finally, if you like this video overall, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe on it. I'd love to know what you guys think about 360 video. Is it worth it for mountain bike films or adventure films in general? Do you like the angles that you get from it? It does give you some funky angles. Some people like it, some don't. Anyways, that's it for me today. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you're all staying sane.